right, we have finally come to it. This is the raid boss breakdown, me number 9. This is going to be for Lady Jaina Proudmoore. And from our perspective, of course, we will be doing this as Horde again. And as the Alliance fleet withdraws from Dazar'alor, Lady Jaina Proudmoore stays behind with a handful of Kultiran vessels to slow the Horde's pursuit. Storm clouds gather overhead as Jaina leads her pursuers deeper into the Great Sea, where she will attempt to turn the odds in her favor. And now I'll read the whole thing that is the Mythic Overview because it just adds the snowstorm middle part. But so the pursuit of Jaina across the seas takes place over 3 stages. During stage 1, Jaina assaults the Zandalari warship with Kultiran corsairs that bombard the play space. As the fight progresses, Marines set charges that inflict heavy damage to the raid unless these bombs are thrown overboard before they detonate. During stage 2, Jaina unleashes the full force of her power, freezing the raid over time. Dwindling heat sources must be used to slow the stacks of chilling touch in order to avoid becoming frozen solid. Although we'll talk about that more later, but frozen solid is actually part of the cheese that people may use on this fight, so we'll see. And during stage 3, which no one has seen, so, well, that's to be heavy speculation, Jaina utilizes the prismatic images that duplicate her most dangerous frost spells, and frozen allies must be freed before they are hit by shattering lance. And then on mythic difficulty, a gathering blizzard causes the temperature to drop, so players must remain close together in order to avoid being frozen solid. That makes me immediately think of sort of a reverse mechanic of Heroic Ragnaros back in the day. Or Legnaros, as he is referred to by those that are of culture. But the biggest things we can definitely go over without just like reading over everything. And we'll go over this like in the Mythic context overall first, just because this, the one main thing is added in Mythic, and that sort of blankets the entire encounter, is the Gathering Blizzard. So yes. let me remove.
Well, after the boat, basically.
Right. What that says that from the overview, because that's the overarching thing there, and it reads anyway, which I don't think I've seen any footage of anyone doing this in any PTR videos. So there's a chilling blizzard causes the ambient temperature to drop and also reduce player vision. Players must remain within 10 yards of one other player, or they gain freezing blood. At 50 power. Players must remain within distance of 3 other players. At 75, you may be within 5 other players. And at full power, vision is severely limited. And after 6 seconds, if the target is not within 10 yards of enough players, the target is frozen solid. So this is from when we leave the boat onward with this effect. This is the Mythic only change, because we can't test this in Heroic. It doesn't exist. In Heroic, actually, it's kind of funny when you watch any footage. When, let me skim this video here real quick. Crazy, you think, when the boat comes over and then there's this kind of Kill Jaden-esque moment where she ports you off, you jump off the boat, and you're like, oh, she's way in the distance. She's on this crazy frozen glacier thing. And all you do is like, you dodge like 2 frozen tornadoes, and then she's there. So I don't know.
Pieces out.
Well, no, she's doing you fight her in phase 2, but it doesn't last very long. Like the intermission in Kill Jaden was kind of excruciating with finding her, or finding Kill Jaden with Illidan's help. But
this is more linear.
You just run straight forward. It's kind of like the maze that you do on the monks too, because you just gotta go straight and dodge things. I don't know if they're gonna change that at all or make it a little bit more chunky, but you can cheese it with certain things too. So
I think they added some stuff on Mythic, did they not? Because it's only the tornadoes on Heroic, I think.
There's these orbs that fly out from her. They radiate out.
Yeah, it's just
now, if you don't stay close to your friends in Mythic,
well, yeah,
you get frozen faster. That's what it was.
Well, right, and that's not how that's the blizzard is there, so you have to run in pairs basically. But that's why like the Heroic version of this and getting through that intermission, which is the Howling Wind stuff, it just doesn't look very. It's neat. It sets the stage, but I don't know. It doesn't really do much. But The other big passive that we have to deal with the whole time is the Chilling Touch. So it's being affected by her frost spells will chill you, reducing movement speed by 2% and inflicting light frost damage every 1 second, and the effect stacks. The one thing that's interesting about this one is that this sucks for melee because we will continuously get... which one is it called again? Is it Grasp? No, Grasp is the other AoE. So they might have taken this out. Because I was watching the footage from the PTR, and I didn't find this in the Dungeon Journal specifically. It's her... She would just randomly Frost Nova everyone around her? But she doesn't... She doesn't... No, the Ring of Frost is her big AoE that you get...
Which phase are we talking?
I'm looking at phase 1.
Oh, Ring of Ice?
Ring of Ice...
Grasp of Frost.
That's just the random player. That's the random route, but that it looks like it's way different in testing. I'm gonna go over to Mike's video here. So, because I like to look at individual parts, and I don't know if this is the same thing anymore. Because watching the Rogue POV, he would just get rooted and then it would just go away. But the way that Grasp of Frost looks is that it targets a random player, rooting them, and it gives them stacks. But if this is the same thing, is it only going to target one person, or is it targeting all the melee? Because this is the one thing I don't know what it's supposed to be doing. Because this is not... I was looking for the Frost Nova to look through her abilities, and I don't think it's the same thing. But anyway, I want to go back to I
think it's just a root, and that's all it is. And
right.
For instance, say if that happens like during Ring of Ice, like...
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to get that dispelled immediately, right?
Yeah. But it's because the Frozen Solid...
2 stacks of Chilling Touch.
The Chilling Touch might not really be a thing until phase 2, maybe. Because I just don't know if it's going to be... Because you can see the debuff in the footage. Mm-hmm. And when the melee get Frost Nova, they get a stack. All right. Yeah. But... It's
just more and more like slower movement too, right? Because a lot of this fight is based on your movement.
Yeah. Because you never want to get 20 stacks of Chilling Touch.
No.
Or drop below 80% health.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you're I think the 80% health is probably phase 2 and 3. See that the whole raid gets Frost Nova'd. I'm just got the footage up here now, but that's her actual different mechanic. So I don't know what the melee one is. But anyway, on their 80% health is bad, and 20 applications of Chilling Touch is bad. You get Ice Block stun for 30 seconds unless they're freed. The player inside suffers a lot of frost damage every 1 second. But
I'm reading it as 20 applications on you and then drop below 80%.
Oh, it's both. It's not either or.
I don't think it's if. I don't think it's or and if and or. I think it's just this and that.
So you can actually have 20 stacks and then you're just slow.
As long as you're above 100% health.
Okay.
As long as you're above 80%, you're fine. But
I just don't.
As long as I can last.
Yeah.
Not long.
I just don't know this mechanic combination. I couldn't tell if it's anything that matters until phase 2. That's all.
I don't think it matters to phase 2.
Yeah. It's a ton of damage. Right.
I think it's just like extra stacks that you could be dealing with, which is kind of like annoying to deal with.
Sure.
Because then you randomly at like just higher stacks going into the phase and all that stuff, but you can just stand on fire, I think, to clear that.
Right. So tank mechanic is that she shoots ice shards at the target, which inflict... I like how it says 100% attack damage as physical. I don't... Sure. Attack damage as physical. I feel like that should have a damage number there, but it's just Dungeon Journal. It increases the damage of consecutive ice shards by 10% for 30 seconds. The effect stacks. So that's just... I don't know how many we'll want to swap at it, because she's casting at the tank. She's not hitting you. So, not a big deal. The other tank mechanic is the Avalanche. So, Jaina will continually hurl ice at her current target's location every 1 second for 5 seconds, inflicting frost damage to players within 7 yards of impact. This is Astromancer Solarian from Nighthold.
Yep.
Tank swap, basically forced tank swap. They get the bomb. They have to run away from the raid. So this Avalanche is what also comes into play with the add mechanic, which I'll go over a little bit. Her time warp is she will cast this on herself and her ally adds, but then those affected by blah 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 blah. It means that I don't know why they put like the debuff in here too, but I like how it says important in this one, because if you don't know, part of the mechanic on Jaina is that when we heroism, she ice blocks.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we have enough information yet. Oh, sorry, yeah, it's not Astromancer. It was Star Augur is the Avalanche mechanic. Star Augur.
Yeah.
That other guy, the other Star Boy is Avalanche mechanic. Okay. Do we know yet in this huge document, do we know if they wrote anything down about where people were attempting to use heroism to stop her from doing something?
Basically, if you have an oh shit, like
Yeah.
stuff is getting out of control, you
Sure.
lust to clean it up, and she just kind of holds still and doesn't do anything.
Because
But also, we don't know if like, because I think you can use lust in like phase 2, right?
sure.
Or phase 3. Like it's dependent. Like ideally, I don't think you want to use lust at all on the boat. I think you're gonna well, unless it's like a 15-minute fight, which it may be.
Right. But if it is a 15-minute fight, which we theorize it will probably be, is that you would most likely, because she gains power, that's sort of the underpinning thing in this whole thing, and she does one of her quote-unquote ultimate abilities at full power.
Mm-hmm.
Which it goes over that in the Gathering Blizzard bit, but that's, again, not until Mythic only. But
Exactly.
the Ring of Ice you're talking about is something that you can hero to force her to block to ignore that mechanic or delay it heavily, because I don't know if she actually loses her energy, her power when she blocks.
No, but like if she's blocked for all of lust, like that's huge, right? Like she just
Right.
kinda hangs out, and we just get to kill trash or whatever.
That's the one weird
But
thing
you-
about this, is that it doesn't say that has any interaction in this document or from the Dungeon Journal. There's nothing about that.
With lust?
Yeah.
Or no, I think that was kind of a thing like they just want to like drop on players and then like
Yeah, for sure.
have fun with this one, guys, because it's brand new, right? Like this is something that we've never ever seen.
Because we don't even know. This doesn't even have it broken down to what she casts at max power. Because it's definitely Ring of Ice.
Oh, you're talking about like the energy?
Yes, her what's called power, her mage power. I guess arcane
Yeah.
power in that regard. Yeah, mage power.
I don't think it's actually power at all. I think it's just those are just timers for the abilities that she casts.
Oh no, very true. But that was part of the PTR, is that she gained power, and then at full power she would do one of a few different abilities, and only when you got to that
okay,
power
gotcha.
point. That's why I'm not sure if that's still a thing.
Yeah.
Because again, there's nothing in the Dungeon Journal now about her power bar or her timing, so I'm not sure if that's a thing. Just because her other abilities are just that she does that really cool looking freezing blast. It's a huge wave in front of her.
Yeah.
Which it has to be sort of angled in a way that the tank will not get knocked off, but not hitting the raid. Because if you fall off into the water anytime during this fight, you die. Just like Stormwall Blockade, the water is death. We're like Dark Souls. We can't fall in the water.
Yep.
So that's
By the way,
just...
I also think that the Gathering Blizzard is on the boat as well.
in Mythic.
In Mythic, like it's there the entire fight.
That would make sense.
Make a lot. Yeah, it's gonna be rough, but it makes sense.
Because that goes over the power thing that she does. Maybe they decoupled her power stance thing and then put it on the Blizzard instead.
Yeah.
So that just means that we'll have to figure out timings and figure out if we want to hero to stop her from casting a Ring of Ice or the frozen.
She does on the boat. She does time warp herself.
Yeah.
So we may just want to time warp, counter her time warp with our own time warp.
Sure, could be possible.
Because it's only a 40-second thing for her as well, right?
Yeah.
So we just like counter her time up with her own time warp.
But that's the one thing, I don't know if I can tell in this video. Does she block for the entire 40 seconds? Or does she block for a portion?
I don't know. I'll watch real quick. Hold on. Let me go back in this video.
Because in the Horde, in Kalamazi's POV, they lust. This must have been because she could tell that she's blocked. She's a big big ice block right there. But I don't know. So she only blocks for half of the duration.
It's 20 in this one. Yeah, he's still got 20 seconds left when she pops out. So.
Oh yeah, 3, 2, 1 here on the block animation, then it comes out. Okay.
It's about 3 minutes 50 seconds. You can see that when she pops out.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now too. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So she only blocks for half of the duration. So it very well may be a thing that you hear on the poll. But if you're not countering her time warp, that seems kind of superfluous.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to see.
It makes sense to counter her time warp then.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
The ads don't matter though. I haven't talked about the ads yet, but I'm gonna go with that after we do all the phase 1 stuff because they kind of don't really do anything. But if they have decoupled her power mechanic, that means that the freezing blast is just on a timer. The grasp of frost is just gonna be on a timer that just needs to be dispelled from healers, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Basically, everything's just on a timer.
Yeah, and then if she still does her frost nova, I don't know. Probably maybe it's gone.
Well, the freezing blast, the most dangerous thing about that is just the knockback from it.
Right. For the tank.
Yeah.
But you can angle her either straight down the side of the ship, or you can put the tank facing the, because you can see that you can, against the quarters, the doors down to the boat. Because we're on a Zandalari boat. I know that Mike says in the video that we're on an Alliance boat. We're not. We're definitely on a Zandalari ship. We're flanked. Yeah, we're flanked by Kultiran battleships, which I'll go with. That's another part of this fight that we'll break down. But yeah, Ring of Ice is her only other thing that I don't know. So the Elisa Ring of Ice that inflicts a ton of frost damage to players within 30 yards, and it'll freeze them for 30 seconds. You just gotta get out of it. And then it inflicts frost damage every 1 second and roots players greater than 30 yards from the boss for 8 seconds. So that's partly avoidable.
As long as you have like the fire debuff on you, you won't get rooted. Right.
Yeah, I was gonna go over the ads for that in a moment, but then the other thing is the other mythic mechanic in phase 1 is that she will ice block a random ballista. Siege weapon cannot be operated until it's released from its icy prison. So that ice block just be DPS down. That's probably just a range swap.
Yeah.
Just
or
a range
it may
swap.
be a hard swap because
maybe
setting those off is. Pardon me, Salute?
Does that happen once or multiple times?
We don't know.
Again, these are the things that I don't know based on the PTR to now, is that she used to have this builds up arcane power, gets 200%, does like an ultimate ability, and it's a random assortment of a few, but that looks to be totally just scrapped.
Did they did they even do this on Fight on Mythic? I don't think
I don't think they ever do Mythic raid testing. Yeah.
Same with I couldn't find any logs for Stormwall on.
Yeah. Because you can see all the different mechanics happening. Like there's again, I pulled the Mike's video again and I put in the background, but there's random frost nova. That's the big AoE that I'm looking at right here. You walk out. So that, I'll now go over to the ads during phase 1. There are Kultiran Marines. These little boat boys. So they'll fixate a random target. And what they will do is they will, I guess, chase them down. They'll bombard the target. There is, or was on the PTR, there's nothing here anymore about that. That the ads would try to, yeah, they don't seem to do it anymore. They used to try to, they'll attack the person that picks up their munition. So they place munition barrels that will explode after 10 seconds and inflicts a lot of flyer damage to players unless it is tossed overboard before it detonates. Barrels that detonate leave behind pools of searing pitch. That's the fire we see in.
Oh, you're talking about that. You're talking about the set charge.
The set charge, yes.
Yeah, so the set charge is the barrel that needs to get thrown off the boat.
Correct, but the marked target from the Kultiran Marine,
he just attacks them.
But
It's a fixate.
right, and PTR stuff. Apparently, the Marines would try to throw those people carrying the barrels overboard, like push them off the boat. But again,
hilarious.
something that isn't in the dungeon journal anymore.
That would be funny. Like
Yeah.
a
It is
Spartan
really
kick
funny.
off the boat.
Yeah, like he kicks you in
Yeah.
the ass and you fly off.
That's the one thing, again, little things that I'm not seeing, because the bombard is still here. So they fly over on griffins, bombard the deck, and they will just drop fire damage.
That lights the boat on fire. And that's
Yeah.
how you clear your stacks of chilling touch. And
Right. So there's
etc.
this is unavoidable damage. We have to just deal with that space on the ground. The tanks clear this with the Avalanche Star Augur debuff. They run around, which is different.
or the ring also clears it as well. I think the ring
Right.
of ice.
Any of her frost clears fire. That's just how the thing is working. That's the one other thing too. Again, PTR to live. Avalanche is only flagged as tanks, but you can quite clearly watch in the video that the Avalanche would actually be on a number of people, and they would sort of kite backwards to clear the boat. But if it's only the tank now, it's not random raid members. Then I guess that's just, it's only a tank mechanic. The tank clears the boat on the tank swap.
Yep. Yeah, you clear the fire, especially if it's on a ballista.
Yep. And then, so the searing pitch on the ground on Mythic anyway is a pretty hefty amount of fire damage, but it's healable, I would imagine, for certain phases, 35k a second, as long as you stay in it. And it inflicts greater damage the longer you stand in it. So the period of time where you're talking about getting away from the ring of ice, it's a get in, raid cooldowns, and get out kind of a deal. It'll be a short window of time because it will remove chilling touch.
Is this like a certain amount of ballistas that we fire before we phase? Is that how this goes?
It's
Or is it based on Jaina health?
Jaina health. I am not entirely sure. That's another thing that you're bringing up that I don't know if it exists anymore. So the boats will also, there's also boats. The reason why the ballistas are on the ship is that during phase 1, port or starboard side, a Kultiran boat will pull up alongside and start bombarding the boat, which could be just the bombard effect here, the Corsairs.
Oh, okay. To stop it happening, we shoot the other boat to make it go
You
away.
shoot the boat, yeah.
Gotcha.
But I think it requires, does it require all 3 ballistas to shoot on that side of the boat? Or
or armor or something. Like I thought you had to like arm them and like there's a
It's
lot of
just-
stuff
it's just a click to shoot them, but I just don't know if it's 1 ballista, 2, or 3.
probably all 3 is my guess.
Right. So that's the bombard. But then that's the 2 things about the bombard mechanic is that it's the boats doing it, but you also see that there are the griffins that fly overhead. So is it both or only 1? Do the griffins just exist or don't exist? Or do they just drop off the marines but don't drop barrels? Right?
Questions.
Like there's all these little things that I couldn't read in the game or the document that I physically saw in this footage. So I don't know. But phase 1 is essentially the Caber posted that picture. It's that we'll have the range of the healer spread out on those grates, and you just have to have people dedicated on each side or just near the ballistas to shoot the Corsair ships when they come up on the sides. And then it's just dealing with the fire, because that's also one thing too. Does the fire still hurt the ballistas? It looks like they're on fire in the footage, but is that still a mechanic?
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it
it's
still
put them out.
it just stops you from firing the ballista if it's on fire.
Right, but
As
that means
well
you
as,
have
I think-
you have to run an avalanche over that ballista.
Does their boat have health too, or if it? No, that'd be insane.
The boat you're on? No, I don't think so.
Hopefully not.
So Bam's like watching this video and staring at her energy. I think that it's still on timers, but while she's at that max energy, she's able to use like Siegebreaker Blast in the last phase. So, because that's the only thing that's resetting her energy bar is that move.
Well, it's called. Well,
So maybe
it's-
she still goes through a rotation, and then that is one of the moves that you need to sort of be positioning for once she's max energy or something.
that's the one thing about that is that blast is only on Mythic now.
Yeah. Oh well.
I haven't gone over it yet, so yeah, that's the no. I thought the Frozen Sea is when she freezes a ballista. That's only on Mythic. On Heroic, then what does she use her energy for? Her power?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe nothing.
It
Maybe
seems
nothing.
Weird. I watched it and she didn't seem to do much. I don't know, I'm trying to figure that out.
That's why when I was sitting here prepping for this fight, there were so many things that may or may not exist still. So that's just sort of how an end boss works. I mean, it still looks way fun because you have the tank debuff to clear the boat. You have people that are also shooting the ballistas to stop the other boats from bombarding us. There is the space management. There is the rotation out from the ring of ice into the fire. There is the angling from the freezing blast to not knock the tank off or hit the entire raid group with a giant frontal cone. And there is also the playing around with when we hero to stop her heroism or to stop something else or to delay a ring of ice or something like that. So all while also throwing over the charges off the boat, dealing with the ads. The ads are a full swap, though, if they still have the fixate to knock the person off, because that's going to be trolly as heck to get knocked off the boat while you're carrying the... I mean, at least you did the mechanic, right? But you're also still dead.
Exactly.
So that's all, a lot of the little things in phase 1. That's off the boat. So then we do the intermission, which is the images. On Mythic, it's just there's the winds that she'll blink away, conjure a powerful storm, restricting vision. This is, again, we have to stay close enough to people. It's either small groups or all together. I'm imagining it to be small groups. So it's dodge the bad stuff. The Mythic version as well, as she has the images of her, which we can't tell, but reading about them anyway. The images provide a shield that surrounds the boss, making her immune to damage and interrupts until no images are left. So we have to kill her mirror images before we can stop the intermission phase. In Heroic, that doesn't exist. You just run up to her. Yeah. You just get to her in Heroic. In Mythic,
basically
it's...
The intermission is actually very similar to what...
Kill Jaden.
Yeah, Kill Jaden was.
Yeah. So we have to get to him and do his little image crap, but I don't know how much of that is going to be, because with the Kill Jaden one you could do the grouping, clumping, gripping thing, but these are probably going to be all over the place, so you have to have groups of people going around and finding them, and you have so much time because as you get colder and colder and colder, you have less and less time to do so.
Everything just kind of snowballs out of control.
All right, and then the tornadoes, don't touch the tornadoes. They're the giant freaking cold tornadoes. They will almost one-shot you. Mythic, they're 178,000 frost damage, which may be because of I have mastery on my shaman, and it might be affecting the number, but it's still a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's a shit ton.
Yep.
And that's gonna hurt.
And now we're basically in... I have some footage of this phase, but...
Stage 2 is what
you're on? We're in stage 2. Stage 2 and stage 3 are both held on the same platform, but... She still does ice shards to the tank. Still does the avalanche, but this doesn't... This doesn't... Well, the avalanche does not say it's a tank debuff anymore. So it still says current target. But then there is the Hand of Frost, which is the Dispel. Claws of Frost fire outward from impact, inflicting frost damage and rooting players struck for 8 seconds. The effect applies chilling touch every 1 second. This kind of feels like what I saw in phase 1, but doesn't exist in phase 1. It's only in phase 2. But that's not necessarily part of the tank mechanic. Yeah, Glacial Ray is new. She just... There's some footage of it in this that plays out where she just shoots like a line of frost and we just dodge it. It's like Limbo.
Yeah, and it leaves a cold cold patch on the ground that you cannot go in, because if you go in, you just take extra stacks of.
Yeah, she does that huge Kamehameha of frost damage, and you just don't. And then if you don't touch the ground anymore.
Yeah, it becomes like Arctic ground is what it's classified as, which means you just take. You take more stacks of chilling touch if you walk in it. It's limiting our area of movement. Yeah, so your Arctic ground. It's her frost spells will freeze the ground, making it even more treacherous to stand on. Standing on Arctic ground applies chilling touch at an increased rate. There's probably 2 stacks a second, I would imagine, or more. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's just don't touch the freezy stuff. And her other ability here is the Ice Fall, which is a massive frozen comet from the skies, a la Sephiroth style. It deals a bajillion damage, almost 500,000 frost damage. Additionally, smaller comets will strike outward, inflicting frost damage as well. This, to me, sounded like Fel Reaver when he did his bombardment phase. Just dodge the big circles and the small circles, I guess, while not touching the ground.
Well, it doesn't even say, like...
You can see the comet in the shot. It's the giant reddish...
So you just dodge it and that's it? And you take, like, no damage from it?
Dodge the smaller ones that spin off.
See, because that's also different in this, because Icefall sounds more of like that. Is it the columns? Is that what they've turned this effect into? Because in the PTR footage, it's the giant swath columns, right? That she does that come across her in like a deep breath, but that doesn't sound like this at all, right? So again, something that doesn't exist, right? I'm not sure if that exists.
Like the ice, like Icefall to me is just like I have no idea.
Yeah,
just no idea.
It's just a comment you dodge. The other things during the phase 2 stuff are the bombs. So there are a few undetonated munition barrels that remain frozen in ice. Upon being destroyed, they ignite her contents, and cause burning explosion. So burning explosion will be ground fire, which we have to sparingly use to reset our icy touch stacks.
Oh dear, basically.
Oh dear, yeah. So they will remove chilling touch from all players within 20 yards when the barrel ignites. After 15 seconds, it explodes, doing a ton of fire damage to players within 20 yards, knocking them back. So you want to
stack up, explode the barrel, continue the fight.
Well,
that's how I read that.
You have to make it blow up or ignite it, but then you don't want to get away from it.
Yeah.
After a while, yeah, because you're immune for 8 seconds. Oh, there's Mike's face. Get out of here, Mike, you beautiful bastard. You get 8 seconds of immunity while you're near the burning barrel, but then after 15 seconds, it pops. So, and based on the footage, I think there was only like 4 barrels sitting in the ice. So 3 or 4 barrels. There again, undetermined number. So we don't know. And the other thing that I don't really know. This is the other bit that doesn't look like it is a thing. So the refractive ice. Objects encased in refracted ice reducing all damage by 99%. Being struck by broadside will shatter this. So that's how we break the ice on the burning explosives. And that comes from the boat, which is her boat that's shooting us.
Yeah, the super space magic boat.
Right. So she'll mark a player. We'll just get a player with a mark on them. And they'll take arcane damage every 1 second. And upon expiration, the cannons fire on that person within 10 yards. That's how you crack the boat. So you got to sort of bait those. Those are the marks on people's head, I believe. Those are the little arcane markers that we see.
It's very similar to like what happens in the Goblin Dungeon, where you have to just like stand over and wait the drill to hit you there.
Right. So that's the broadside, which is what it says here. Being struck by broadside will shatter the ice around the barrels. I guess they're just munitions. They're not. Yeah, they're barrels. The other one is the Siegebreaker Blast, which what you talked about from the phase 2, right? Siegebreaker Blast is the phase 2 mechanic, where I thought phase 1 was the Frozen Siege or Ring of Ice thing. That's what Daki said. This is the same sort of thing. Hopefully a different icon. It looks like it's a pink hunter's mark. Maybe. I don't know which one that is. Purple?
Definitely purple.
But that one will mark a player, and after locking on, the flagship fires a mighty arcane salvo, inflicting almost 150,000 arcane damage to all players and knocks them back. The damage is reduced the further players are away from the impact point. So the player has to be baited away from the icy ground and knock us away from not the icy ground. Don't get knocked into the ice.
Yeah.
So the two different boat mechanics. One we have to get away from us, and one we have to use to break the munitions out to slow the roll on the aura, the blizzard aura. All while staying close enough together to not freeze to death from her AoE. And again, figuring out how her power bar works with that, because
well, it's kind of like your power bar. So whatever your stacks are at.
See, because there's no UI element on the players that are in this phase, because
I don't think that
Mythic,
was implemented yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it's going to be like anything like any of the void bosses where you're getting overwhelmed with insanity type thing.
Right. Sure. There should be a UI clicker for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that phase 2 is just that. It's mostly a burn phase dealing with the slow roll of the bombs rolling out and then dealing with all of her, the broadside boat AoE, Siege Master Blast AoE, and then not touching the frozen ground.
Exactly.
So the other intermission here, which again, no one has seen, so this is speculation. She casts Flash Freeze. She'll begin freezing everything, placing a stack of Chilling Touch every 15 seconds on all players as a zone of cold slowly expands from her position. Players that come into contact with this zone are instantly frozen, so get away from her. At the end of her channel, Jaina shatters all players, instantly killing them.
That's so much. That's insane.
So we have to keep...
So basically, we have to run away from her?
Run away from her coordinatingly and while staying together. And not standing on the already frozen ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Her Arcane Barrage will call the full might of her flagship to constantly bombard the area, inflicting arcane damage to all nearby players and knocking them back. This will be happening from the ship, I wonder, while she's also channeling the flash freeze?
Yeah, I think that's probably like it's like a line, basically a line attack that goes across like the entire zone is probably what it is.
Okay.
Similar to like, if I'm thinking like the shark from Mistress, like something similar to that, where it blasts the area and then knocks you back as well.
Okay.
That's my guess.
And this is the first time we hear about her Tide Elemental. Yeah. Upon reaching 100 power, the Jaina's Tide Elemental casts Frost Nova. But I don't know when she summons this. Does she summon it only during this intermission? Because it has a shard of ice on a player, causing them to burst with icy energy, inflicting frost damage to all nearby allies. It has a Frost Nova, which can be dispelled. It has a water bolt volley. It's interruptible, that hits all players for 83,000 frost damage on Mythic, so just have to interrupt it.
I think she spawns it on this intermission, and then it lasts for the rest of the fight.
Okay. Yeah, because the Mythic version that says about this is that upon death, its elemental will split into smaller pieces of itself.
Yeah.
So do you not kill it? Or is the smaller version weaker?
I think you want to kill it before it reaches 100 power, because if it reaches 100 power, it's just going to start freezing everybody, and that's like obnoxious.
Right. Because that's
so
on Heroic, it doesn't split. On Mythic, it splits.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you're going to want to kill all the little ones as well.
Do we know? We don't know how many she even spawns. It just says Tide Elemental, like 1.
3 to 4.
Well, historically, Warcraft 3, she only had 1. She could have 2 at any given time because of the cooldown back in Warcraft 3. So maybe it's 2?
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
That sounds, depending on how... What's up?
I hope it's 2, just for lore. I just want to see her in all her glory.
I don't know how this intermission plays out because it feels like it's nowhere near as long of an intermission as the first one. But again, staying together, not getting flash frozen, dodging the barrage, and then somewhere in there attacking, interrupting, and killing her elemental. So that's somewhere in there. How long that takes, maybe, we don't know how long. It only says every 15 seconds is the flash freeze. Maybe we have to... There could be an amount of the channel that we have before she hits the whole platform with it, or there's an amount that she'll always cover, and then that's just our workable space. Not sure.
I think it's just going to grow out to be like 40 to 60 yards probably, and we just have to like run away from it.
Yeah.
Probably like, my guess is Gul'dan, where he'd have his growing circle of death. It's just a slow roll of that is my guess. But this is all, of course, just pure speculation.
Yeah, the Google document doesn't really have any more information about it, really. It just kind of says what the Dungeon Journal says. So,
well, yeah, because like we just don't know, right? We have no idea what's going on at this point.
Yep. Just want to read through it real quick. There's no footage of Phase 3 onwards, so there's really nothing to discern from that.
There's no footage from Intermission 2 onwards.
So from that, we're still in the same area. We still have frozen seas, we still have the Arctic ground, we still have the flagship casting broadside and the Siegebreaker blast. There is no munitions, however, anymore, so I do not know how we're supposed to keep warm. because there's nothing in here about. Yeah, I guess don't. Yeah.
Don't.
So
Kill her quickly.
she does ice shards again. Now she has Crystalline Dust, which is another tank mechanic. Chilling Dust blasts the air in a frontal cone, inflicting a huge amount of frost damage to all players struck. So she basically has the phase 1 mechanic again, the Freezing Blast, but this time there's no knockback, and it's a lot more damage. The difference in damage is 100,000 frost damage and a knockback to 164,000 frost damage to all players struck. So it might also be a different graphic, not just a thin cone, but like a cone of cold style thing.
Oh, does she not do Crystalline Dust anymore on phase?
Well, Crystalline Dust,
stage 2?
yeah, only there's no Crystalline Dust or the frontal cone in phase 2. No.
Oh, okay, so I guess it's only phase 3 now.
She has her new Orb of Frost. She'll fire a large Orb of Frost towards a player. Colliding with the Orb of Frost inflicts frost damage and reduces its power. Reduces the Frost Orb's power, I suppose. And upon reaching the end of the path or running out of power, the orb will explode, inflicting frost damage to all players, and applying stacks of Chilling Touch based on remaining power. So this looks like someone has to basically eat it and tank it.
I think, or else the raid basically soaks half of it, and then the other person just takes the big hit because we don't want it to explode.
Yeah.
So I think we need to manage like how much of it is going to go into the raid, and then how much the player is going to take to the face.
Sure.
Can it be?
And I'm going to assume it can be immune and all that stuff, but we don't know if like immuning it will just like make it not explode, because
Right.
the biggest thing is we don't want the Chilling Touches to be going off at this point, because we're on a time limit for when everybody's frozen, and then Jaina just starts killing people because they're frozen.
Sure. Okay.
At least that's my understanding of it.
She still has the Glacial Ray from phase 2. Icefall is the same comet from the air. Now it's just super crazy damage. We're going to still ignore that. Shattering Lance is if a player becomes frozen solid, a Shattering Lance forms near Jaina. After a few seconds, the lance fires out in a line towards the frozen player, inflicting frost damage to all players struck, and the Shattering Lance inflicts triple damage to frozen targets. So this is just a sort of a pseudo-soft enrage that if you actually become frozen, we will know where the direction of it going, so no one needs to be in that line, but that person is basically dead. The only way you guess you become frozen is you're not close enough to people. Right.
Well, I think we need to break them. I think you can break people out.
You can break people out from being frozen, yeah. There, at the ice block. This is part of the overarching that I haven't really talked about yet, is that if they don't change it, you can force yourself to get ice blocked to damage funnel into Jaina, but I'm not sure how good or important or realistic that will be to do. But that
you're
was
talking like for warriors or something like that?
well, just
Or
almost
any
like
class that-
it's like Zool. Letting yourself
okay, I
get
get you.
frozen and then AoEing and damage funneling with rogues, or warriors could sweeping execute into Jaina from the ice block.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that'll be a thing.
Probably not.
Ugh,
Yeah.
not
The other
Like, yeah,
last
just-
thing
possible.
is just that she also has an image that fragments off into the arena. The image copies some of her spells as long as it's alive. So she'll have prismatic images, which are similar to the first intermission on Mythic. I look like so, but the heroic version of the fight, you get the prismatic images in heroic in phase 3, whereas you already know what they do in phase 3 of heroic. So when you do a Mythic, then you'll see them in the Howling Winds phase when she has the icebound images during
Exactly.
the run up to her or finding her.
Does it say that she's immune again in phase 3 when they're up, or no?
Yeah, well, in phase... Oh, no. In phase 3, there's no immune. Only during the intermission 1 on Mythic, she's immune while they're active.
Okay.
Yeah, the Arctic Armor. She's immune to damage and interrupts until no images are left. Yep. But there's definitely some overlapping abilities where you see certain things in one phase that go to the next, or start in one and keep going to the next one. But the biggest thing is that some of the telegraphs or spell effects from the PTR, I can't find them in the should be up-to-date Dungeon Journal, since she does launch on Tuesday. So, but outside of that, a lot of it is just waiting until we can figure out what the day raiders do and seeing what happens. The biggest thing from the feedback that I saw from the videos was that her HP looked way overtuned in PTR, which is a thing since they don't kill her, right? But
yeah. Or it's just going to be that long of a slugfest.
It's also very true.
Like, we also don't know when Jaina's just going to be like, peace out, right? Like, she may just leave at 20% life. Like, who knows?
Also true. Yeah, I don't know the HP breakpoints for intermissions, because we know, I mean, story spoilers, is that the way we do the flashback to these 3 encounters are we find Mechatork and Jaina injured or whatever, like as we're leaving, and then we flash backwards.
Well, Jaina isn't injured. She just pieced out, I think, didn't she?
She gets gravely injured, I'm pretty sure. Like Base says, we find her injured, I think.
Oh, yeah. See, I didn't think she was gravely. I knew Mechatork was gravely injured, but not Jaina. I thought Jaina was just like, she just eventually got out after a while.
I think she just gets tired of playing with us.
That's also could be true. Well, get tired of playing with the Horde. Her whole point was the delay. She was just delaying, which is a lot of what her overarching thing here is, that it feels very delay oriented, with the fact that you're just getting slowed or rooted or her intermission, where it's just chasing mirror images in the snow kind of a deal. But a lot of things up in the air for how things work, how the marine stuff works, if the griffins are still there, and the burning pitch, and the fixate and knocking you off. And the biggest thing is about her power bar. That's what I don't know if she still has it or not. So did you guys figure anything else out, or sort through anything else that we could look forward to? Or
a lot of questions and a lot of theories of like how they generally design bosses is like all I really had.
Right. She looks wicked fun. Like she's a mix of very spectacle and a lot of player controlled mechanics, unlike Kil'jaeden, which we've talked about a lot during this breakdown, because Kil'jaeden had so much RNG, it was painful, but her RNG is like dodging bad areas, but the rest of it's like we control the fire bombs, we control the ballistas, we control the fireplace, we control the avalanche, that kind of stuff. So
we control everything.
It's a lot more Gul'danish control for players, I feel, than the nonsense that was Kil'jaeden, where if you miss one soak out of 15 RNG effects, you die.
Yeah, exactly.
So it looks way better constructed, but just not sure on how long things go. Intermission 2 and Phase 3, no one has seen. So,
do you think we're gonna get 2 lusts, or?
I think so. Yeah.
I would imagine 2 lusts. Yeah. Because the one thing about this too, sort of side tangent, is when we do our runs. I mean, we'll probably know by the time we start doing our clears, but this type of a fight with how much stuff and how long of an encounter this is probably one of the ones that if we get all the way up to Jaina and Heroic on one group, then I almost wonder if we should go to normal and try to kill her in normal first instead of wiping on Heroic. Yeah. So, because there's
my plan, but
there's no reason to try to like kill Jaina like early. We could have the 4 days to plan to do Heroic up to her, and then do normal full clears to get a better idea. Obviously, certain abilities don't exist on normal, but
Heroic's also going to answer a lot of our questions. So.
No, for sure. That's the one thing about the Mythic of this. That's the one thing we've noticed about some of the Mythic toggles in here, is it almost feels like it's like old school hard mode, where there's like one big change, but not a ton of little ones. Alrighty. Yeah, that's Jaina. I tried to figure out as much as I could and sort of piece together all the different parts of the encounter to sort of get a grasp on what she's going to do. But because we've never seen the second intermission, we've never seen Phase 3, and because some things you can watch in PTR footage, doesn't exist in the dungeon journal, or has been retooled from one way or another. We can't be certain what is going to happen with certain mechanics when we get there, but we will find out soon. For those of you that have been watching these live, I appreciate it. For those of you that have been watching these on YouTube, these were not supposed to be gameplay, even though I've mixed in some gameplay B-roll footage in the Stormwall blockade, and now, of course, in Jaina's video, just to give you something else to look at, I suppose, while we're sort of looping through. But discussion videos. Discussion, breakdown, lots of hemming and hawing, kind of going back and forth on what this does and how this works. But that's going to be the Raid Boss Breakdown series for the Battle of Dazar'alor.